If you haven't already, subscribe on iTunes. And while you're there, please leave us a rating and review.
Or lease in the morning.
Hello and welcome to Paratalk with the East Tennessee Ghost Seekers. Paratalk podcast contains explicit language, scary content, and adult humor. Parental discretion is advised.
It's time for Paratalk, a wide-ranging discussion covering hauntings, paranormal encounters, UFOs, cryptids, and true crime. With your host, Stephen Brown, and your East Tennessee Ghost Seekers, Steve Wiseman, Andrea Brown, Elsie Adams, Jesse Arms, Amy Sharp, Justin Howard, and me, Mike Howard. To join in the discussion, email etgsparatalk@gmail.com. And now, it's time for Paratalk.
All right, guys. Welcome to Paratalk.
Again.
Is this Friday the 13th?
You know what? Sorry.
I'm tired. I gotta go home now. I'm tired.
No. No, but I think, aren't we right around a full moon within a week or so? Because
I don't know. I think it's right now.
Yesterday was a full moon.
there we go. That is exactly why.
And we have 5 planets lined up.
Oh yeah, that whole Mercury in retrograde. Apparently, I'm supposed to be miserable until like February 21st.
Well, let's not even think about that.
Just saying.
Because if you're miserable, that means we're all miserable.
Yep.
Not me, because I don't live here.
Shit.
I am so glad everybody's joining us again. Sorry for the disruption.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
what
cannot
happened.
comment on that due to the litigations that are in effect.
What did you feed him today?
Pizza.
Pizza.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean,
We haven't gotten to.
He all but shit himself last week.
well, Amy. I mean,
Closest to him.
this may be true tonight.
There is a smell. It smells like a shit.
Very much.
Maybe. So I don't even want to wait anymore. Let's do this. Me. I'm Steven of Paratalk, and welcome to my semicircle table.
They all know who we are!
And everyone.
They do.
And to my right, the Duke of Hell, Mr. Steve Wiseman. Howard! And Wallow with his mom. And to my left, my sweet little wife, Miss Andrea Brown.
Hello, everyone.
Straight across from me. To my right, in front of me. The Deacon of Heck. Out of the bunker, Mr. Mike Howard.
Hey, what's up?
How's it going?
The Dookie of Hell.
No, that was this live stream, getting up to it. And to my front left.
He had to think
To
about
my
that.
front butt.
Yeah. Our Oracle, Miss Amy Sharp. Welcome, Amy.
Hello.
How are ya?
Fabulous.
Good. Everybody hang on. This is going to get nasty. All right, guys. So, if you were joining us the 14 other times before, we apologize. I don't know what.
Welcome to the first day of February.
Yeah. I don't know what the hell happened. But
It's only January 30th.
When we started it was.
I know what you were going for.
Yeah, I did
just
too.
look confused.
Yeah. But everything was going wrong. Nothing was going right. We were hearing everything. No one was
We
hearing
were
us.
like jamming
We were
to
jamming.
the opening music.
Yeah,
It was
and-
fantastic.
and-
I hate that everybody missed that.
Yeah.
Missed it. It was so awesome.
It was
great.
so
Should have
good.
been there. It was so good.
So good.
You know, it's
so good.
too bad I wasn't doing the Facebook Live then.
I know, right? Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't believe we finally found a copy of Richard Pryor's Country Christmas.
Oh, I know. Yeah. And no one got to hear it. No one got to hear it.
Once in a lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah.
That Facebook Live was a little scary.
It
It was
was.
sketchy. Those people you saw in there, whew.
Yeah. Watch out for them.
That's why we have faces for radio.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
So, we found out last week that if we run over that 120 minutes,
We're in trouble.
Podbean will cut us off. So we don't have time to waste and a lot of shit to talk about.
10:20 is our cutoff time.
10, 20.
Oh.
Well, see, I've got a counter on here. So
Okay.
yeah.
I
So-
marked the time as well.
Good. So this week, we are talking Richard Ramirez. That
Yeah.
SOB.
Yeah.
Yeah. I cleaned it up just for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. That
Appreciate
fucker.
that.
I don't clean it up for anybody.
No, you don't have to worry about that.
So, Richard Ramirez started out as a normal kid.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, started out a normal
Like when
kid.
he was born.
Yeah. I mean, he came out of what we assume was a vagina,
Possibly.
maybe a
Or
butthole.
an
Maybe.
alien egg. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or, maybe he just sprouted from hell.
That's very possible, too. Very possible.
I found some fun information on
Okay. Pull the microphone to you.
I found some fun information of his youth. Like, he was number 5. Kid
Right.
Number 5. And his mom worked in a boot factory. Lots of chemicals. So all 4 of his siblings have birth defects.
Yeah. Yeah. From her working there and inhaling that
And
while she was
she had
pregnant.
to have multiple hormone injections while she was pregnant with him in order to keep a viable pregnancy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, the way you open that, fun facts.
I mean, they're fun for us. They're factual, and I enjoy learning them. There we go. They're facts.
I understand. At what was it? 2 years old, dresser fell on him.
Yes.
Had to get stitches. Then
Had a concussion and had to get stitches.
Yeah. Then again, at 6 years old, he got hit by a swing on the playground in the head.
Yeah. His sister was actually on that swing, and he went running towards her because he wanted to hop on the swings with her, and bam, knocked him out, gave him another concussion, and 30 some odd stitches. So that was a big gash.
That was a big gash.
Big gash.
Yeah, would not be his last gash.
No.
No, would not.
We just like saying gash. Just
Yeah,
Gosh.
gash.
would not be his last gash.
Put moist in front of that.
What's moist gash? Moist sticky gash. There you go.
Mike's like, I'm done.
But here's what's
Fuck is
interesting
going
though is that at 6 he started having epileptic seizures because he was diagnosed with temporal lobe epilepsy, which is caused by getting whacked in the head a few
Yeah,
times.
head trauma. Yep.
But
Nice echo effect.
I tried really hard for that. I worked it out. Mike and I worked that out beforehand. We
Good
just
job.
didn't tell you guys. So people diagnosed with temporal lobe epilepsy often showcase altered sexuality, hyper-religious feelings, and are either hypergraphic or excessively aggressive. And some people never grow out of it.
And
He obviously did.
well, he grew out of the seizures that he had, but the damage was done.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a damaged person.
You know,
for sure.
and that's the thing about the majority of these serial killers that we have talked about and that we've read about. Head trauma. You know, that's a huge factor there, was head trauma at a young age. And, you know, I guess when he was younger and he would act up, his dad didn't put up with shit. You know,
used to beat the hell out of him.
Yeah. And I guess, you know, tied him
And
up to
all of them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Tied him up to a crucifix in a cemetery, you know. And then eventually he started just sleeping in said cemetery just to be away from his dad. You know, which, you know, I'm sorry, that sucks. You know, you would rather sleep in a cemetery than be with your family because of fear, you know. But how does that...
I'd like to sleep in a cemetery just because it's quiet.
Right. But I mean, to sleep out there for fear because you're a child afraid to be at home.
That's true.
You know, but, you know, in no way does that need to go where it went. You know, that did not need to happen. The shit that he wound up doing, bad childhood, whoop-de-freaking do. Kids have bad childhoods, you know.
Yep.
But to go to the course he went, no. Mm-mm. Somebody else jump in there.
Sorry, I'm in the
You're talking in the chat room, yeah.
He also had some help along the way from his uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Uncle Mike.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
My Uncle Mike was really cool.
So was my Uncle
His
Mike.
was
Mine
like
too.
fucked in the head.
This was his cousin Miguel, who went by
yeah.
Mike.
Yeah.
And Miguel probably, well, as fucked up as Richard's childhood was, it didn't get any better when he started hanging out with his cousin Miguel.
Right.
Nope.
Because he was actually in the room watching when Mike killed his wife
Yeah. Shot her in the face. Yeah.
and went to jail for it. And it was literally the two people in the room were his wife and Richard.
Yeah.
And Mike pulled the gun and shot his wife in the face.
And you know what is so sad about that is that he sat there, watched his cousin shoot his wife in the face, and then proceed to go to jail. Yet the desire to kill people was stronger than
Okay,
wanting
but-
to stay out of jail.
Mike got out of jail after 4 years.
Was it 4 years?
He served 4 years and got out of jail.
Because they deemed him
Insane.
mentally incompetent at the
Yeah.
time because he'd been in the Vietnam War and they
Right.
said he didn't get enough help and all that. But if you look back, it was premeditated because Richard went to get something out of the refrigerator and was like, why is there a gun in here? And he was like, I might need that later. He knew she was going to come home pissed off at him because he wasn't working. He wasn't doing anything around the house. And when she came home and got from grocery shopping and was pissed off because he hadn't picked up or done anything, he shot her point blank in the face.
Yeah.
So it should have been
Premeditated.
open and shut. It should have been premeditated murder, but he had a good lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even before Mike shot his wife in the face, you know, Richard and Mike would go out and peep in windows, and Mike taught him how to, you know, break into homes. And,
Yeah.
And you got to remember, too, cousin Miguel or cousin Mike also, he spent time in Vietnam and would sit there for several hours at a time, apparently, and show Richard different pictures that he himself collected of Vietnamese women that he tortured, raped, killed, just did horrible things to. And apparently there were reports that when Richard would look at these pictures, he, too, himself became aroused as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then there's some reports, too, that as they went into it, there's some reports that there was some possible... there was some possible sexual torture, or there was some not good things going on with Mike and even his wife apparently and Richard, and there was some reports that maybe there was some molestation going on there. Because you got to remember, when Miguel shot his wife and killed her, Richard was 13. He had just
13
turned
years old.
13 years old. So from the time he was about 9 to 13, he spent a lot of time with cousin Mike, and apparently it was just. I mean, you just that length of time when you hear about some of that, horrendous.
Oh, yeah.
Nightmarish.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, okay, well, but there's so many. The weird thing about Ramirez is that there was no pattern to anything. There was so much stuff.
He was not your typical serial killer. It was so over here, over there, over there. You know, it was just.
Because with Ramirez, you had not only the serial killing, but you had rape, you had torture, you had pedophilia, which they never even went into because they wanted so much to go ahead and get the penalty on the
murder charges
that they didn't even touch. There were so many cases of kidnapping and pedophilia that he committed himself. It's just the litany of things he did was just a nightmare.
Yeah.
But when you listen to his whole story, it's a fucking living nightmare itself. Again, it doesn't excuse a single thing he did.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
But you can go, okay.
That makes sense.
Well, the thing was, everything he did was learned.
Yeah.
Every single thing he did was learned.
Yeah.
And like you say, from the age of 9 to 13, hanging out with Uncle Mike, that's a lot of fucking years for a man to put shit into a young boy's
And those are
head.
very impressionable years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I mean, as he got a little bit older, he started getting into drugs. Well, that right there, how do you get your money? You steal things. You break into houses. Well, the easy way around that, in his mind, I suppose, is you go into a house, people are there, well, guess they got to go too, and I'll just take what I want.
No loose ends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what's really confuses the hell out of me as a parent is if you knew, and I mean, Miguel he probably was not very secretive about the things that he was talking to him about. I mean, especially at 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. People know that he said these things, so what the fuck were his parents thinking? Yeah. Why do you let somebody hang out, even family or not? I mean, well, I'm sorry. It's a big parenting fail.
Well, see, it's just like when he threw a rock through one of his neighbor's window.
Yeah.
When they tell his mom shrugged her shoulders and goes on in the house. Did nothing. There was no parenting.
He was the baby.
Yeah, and I looked for quite a bit of time yesterday trying to find any type of interview or comments or anything from his parents or his siblings, and I could not find a single thing.
Well, my guess is
his father went to his deathbed firmly believing that his son was innocent of murder or anything that they tried him for, because my son wouldn't have done that.
Well, I mean, that's just his classmates said, it doesn't seem like the Richard they knew. Okay, they knew him when he was 6 years old. They didn't know him at 24, 25 years old. Yeah.
On cocaine binges. And
God, yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I could only imagine LA at that time. Even the cops in their interviews.
LA in 1985 was a rockin' frickin' city.
Yeah. I mean, and I could, listening to some of the cops, it's kind of like, they got that first call about finding murder. He was like, oh, another day, another murder. It's kind of like, wow, okay. So the opportunity that he had to get away with them. I mean,
plus, too, the thing that has always bothered me so much about Ramirez is the fact that not only his parents, but people he came across throughout this whole time, from the time he was about 9 years old on, up until, when he got caught and put in prison, he came across so many different people who probably could have made some sort of difference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Somebody could have done something, and everyone he came across chose to go, whatever, it's not my problem.
Yeah.
From family to friends to people, they all literally just went, oh, whatever. And I'm saying, it's not excuses a single thing that he did. He got everything that he deserved. He should have lived longer and stayed in jail longer. Mm-hmm. But the problem is, every single outlet, every single chance where somebody had something where they could have said, hey, you can't do that. Mm-hmm. People went, whatever. And just walked away.
Yeah.
They turned the other way and went,
they didn't even slap his wrist or nothing.
No.
It was just.
And the one person that, from all the research I've done, the one person actually tried was his sister because he went to jail for the stealing of the car. Mm-hmm. When he got out, his sister tried to get him to come back to El Paso and live with her. And he's like, no.
it's not just that, but he was busted 3 times before he ever moved from El Paso.
Yeah.
He went to jail 3 different times on drug charges. But because it was all less than 2 ounces,
Right.
it was petty. It was considered petty.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that, but when you have a repeat offender, you look at that. You're supposed to look at that.
Yeah.
And then
Red flag.
He also had the guy, I can't remember his name, but the guy who was friends with him, and they were looking for him, and he was like, "Oh man, I'm not going to help you bust him," even after being told he was wanted for murder.
Yeah.
He was like, "Nah, it's okay. You can find him on your own. I'm not going to help." And the only reason he helped was because they were like, "Okay, well, that's conspiracy.
Yeah.
So we're going to take you to jail if you don't." What the fuck is wrong with people?
That's so sad that somebody has to be threatened like that to oust a murder rapist.
Yeah.
Serial killer.
And part of the reason that they didn't prosecute him on the pedophilia charges, the horrific rape and kidnapping of children,
And
is
murder.
because the police talked to the DA and they didn't want to put those kids through the hell they would go through
Right.
on the stand. They knew that he was going to get enough charges that he would go away forever. So they didn't want to put the kids through that. And
there was
that's
that-
admirable. But at
Yeah.
the same time, I feel like they didn't get their justice.
Right.
There was that one girl. She was 6 years old at the time, and she said, "I'll go to court. I'll
Well, it's like they
I'll
took
talk
her
about
to
it."
the lineup.
Yeah.
And she's sitting there and they're like, if you see him, just point him out. And she goes, "Do I write the number 2 or spell 2?"
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know?
she was all ready.
And
and
she saw him. He was number 2.
So I wonder
do
if that
write
was-
the number 2 or do I spell 2?
I wonder if that is, the DAs, the parents who didn't want to put, even if that was the only child.
Well, I mean,
According to the Netflix show,
Yeah.
that's part of what it was. They actually did an interview with her. And apparently they got through about a half an hour, 45 minutes of talking to her. And apparently
the cops got so choked
the
up.
cops were so moved and so disturbed by all of it. They said that's it. We can't. And there were apparently police in tears that would just left the room. And they said, we can't do this. We're not going to do this anymore. We can't listen to this. We can't put another kid through this. So they just said, we're not even going to go after any of, because there were literally, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 18
That they know
pedophilia
about.
charges that they know about that they could have gone after.
And-
Kidnapping and pedophilia.
Yeah.
Sarmenti actually makes a good point, saying that, the whole don't want to be a snitch culture might have had something to do with that. Nobody wanting to talk.
Yeah. And he said,
Well, that's the simple fact that people just don't give a shit. If it's
That's
not
true.
about, if
And
it
that's
doesn't
another plus
affect
people
me,
not giving.
Yeah, if and we still see it today in all kinds of things. And not to try to politicize anything, but seriously, you wonder why people have problems being told, "Hey, don't do this because you might hurt other people." Oh, is it me?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, fuck it. I don't care.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't care if it's anybody else. If it doesn't affect me, I don't fucking care.
Right.
Yeah.
And we still see, and that was all this. Well, is it me? No, it's Richard. Well, then fuck it. I don't care.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to do what he wants. As long as it doesn't bother me,
Right.
it's fine. Oh, well, he's killing a bunch of people. I don't care.
He ain't killing me.
Didn't kill me.
Hockey Man had a good question. He says, looking at his rap sheet, he had a lot of victims survive the attacks. Was that because he was bad at murder, or did he just want to leave them alive?
See, now I had posed this question as well. Speaking with Stephen earlier, I was like, there was this one instance where he went and broke into a house, and there was a woman and her son there, 11-year-old son. He bound her and raped her, put the kid in the closet before, and then when he was done, asked her, where's all your valuables? He proceeded to grab the valuables, then pulled the kid out and bound them together. Did not kill either one of them. He just raped her, got the stuff, bound them together. So he didn't kill either one of them. Why not?
Well,
I'm glad he didn't, but
I also think, there's some of the, as we get into his whole long list of people that he attacked, there were a couple that he actually shot both of them in the head.
Yeah.
And they just didn't die. He shot them with a 22.
oh yeah.
And he did attack a lot of people with a 22.
Yeah, the one guy he shot in the head and 3 times,
Yeah.
and
And
he
he
survived.
chased
And the guy survived.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
guy chased him out of the house.
Yeah, and then one of the first people he attacked, when he found the one girl coming in, shoots her, She apparently it wasn't anything that it wasn't. He didn't hit her any place that was that was going to kill her.
It deflected
Off her keys. That's right. And then he went in and waited for her roommate to come home. But he stood there and waited, watched her. She popped her head up. He shot her in the forehead.
Yep.
Ran back out. Could have killed the roommate, and she said, "You just shot me. What else do you want?"
Right.
And he just turned off and ran. I think to the point where he was. I've always wondered why people do what they do. What drove Bundy to do what he did? What drove? Because Manson never bothered me that much. Because Manson was just literally an egomaniac.
Yeah.
And it was all about you do this for me, for me, for me, for me. Same thing with Bundy. With Ramirez, the problem with Richard Ramirez is that he just kind of did it because it was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just did it because he was there. And I think some of the people he left alive because he told them, you go tell them the Night Stalker did this. You go tell them I did this. And then other people, it was just like, I'm not going to kill you. I'm just going to rape you.
Right.
I'm scare you.
Well, one of the things early on in his little spree, one of the detectives had actually said that when they were trying to figure out, okay, is this all, are these connected? You know, there's no consistency, but the only consistency that he could find was that the manner in which he was killing them, it was like he wanted them to see him, or he wanted to see the fear in their eyes. That's why he yanked that girl out of her car instead of just shooting her in the car. He wanted to see the fear in her eyes before he killed her.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's why he waited on the one girl to come up she was hiding in the kitchen, and he stood there, apparently they said for at least 2 minutes, stood there and stared at the top of her head as she was sitting there hiding behind an island in the kitchen. She stands up and he looks at her and with both hands on the gun finally shoots her in the head. And everything that people are saying in the chat room now about, he was torturing them to leave them with the rest of their lives. He wanted to see them. I think you're all right. I think parts of everything which you're saying is absolutely right. And it was, I think we then go back to that whole thing that, because this is where my circle comes back around. All these people from the time he was 9 on literally just said, we don't give a shit about you.
Yeah.
You mean nothing.
Yeah.
He wanted somebody to say, hey, guess what? You mean something.
He was
Whether
made
you're
to
the
feel,
last person I see before I die, I'm going to know who killed me. You mean something.
He was made to feel insignificant.
He wanted
growing
some
up, and he wanted to be
of power or some kind of control at least once or twice.
Or notoriety of some sort.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, during the interview with him on death row, he was talking and he said, I gave up on love a long time ago, and that's what he never felt it. When he was a kid, he didn't get that recognition. He got the recognition when he fucked up and his dad beat his ass. But as far as like the stable parents showing him, parenting him, he didn't have that. So I think that's where that love. I gave
being
up
the
on
youngest of 5 kids. By the time the love trickles down, there's nothing left.
Yeah.
I mean, generally speaking, I know in my family, it felt like the love was left to the end. But there were only 3 of us, so I could see that after 5, you're just kind of like, meh, And really, I don't know how old his parents were in his childhood, but that could have played a part. The fact that Dad was just just a mean man.
A jackbutt.
Yes, a jackbutt, and he just did not care.
From everything I remember, since he was the youngest, they were actually older parents for him.
Yeah.
And then his mom, of course, having worked and whatever, she's just kind of like done. Oh,
I don't think his parents gave a shit about him one way or another.
Yeah.
They made it very clear they didn't care about him one way or another.
But yet he could do no wrong.
Well, he was an altar boy, and that makes me question. We know what we've heard, about altar boys and how they're treated.
Sure.
And he was a pretty young man.
Yeah.
He was a pretty boy.
So,
seriously, looking at some of his pictures, you're like, oh, he's a good looking kid.
Yeah.
But, it just makes you wonder, did that happened to him when he was an altar boy? Did he get molested as an altar boy?
Well, I thought I had read or seen somewhere that he was molested as a child.
Okay. So, I mean, and it may have been there, or by his cousin.
Well, some of the later interviews he gave too, he mentions he never came straight out and said this is what, but he made mention about a couple different times and different people that took advantage of him as a child.
Right.
So there very well could have been molested as an altar boy, and of course the whole thing with Cousin Mike and apparently his wife too. Cousin Mike and his wife both had fun with Richard.
Right.
When he was 9 or 10 years old. I mean, again, nothing that happened excused anything he did, but you understand the basis of where this fucking evil, horrible piece of shit person came from.
Right. Yeah. Because that's what he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like he was bred to be horrible.
To be evil.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, he's flat out said, I am evil.
I am evil. Yeah, I mean, during the interview.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, he said, aren't we all? Yes, I'm evil. That's what he says.
But he was very hesitant at that.
Well,
and he was, in that daggum interview, he was a very...
Hey, watch your language. Daggum.
Shut up. He's a very...
Wash your mouth out with soap.
Shut your pie hole.
Oh my God.
Gobble, gobble, motherfucker.
Andrea!
That was not me.
Oh my God.
That was
Oh my God!
He was a very eloquent speaker for being, I don't know. What do you?
Very lowly educated.
Yeah, a very lowly educated person. He was very, very articulate. And now, you know what? Y'all made me lose my train of thought. I'm just going to leave it at that. He was a very articulate person, and you would not imagine that he would be someone. Yeah. But then again, he has a lot of time to read if he's a loner.
Well, you were saying he was very hesitant when he was expressing himself to be evil.
That's what I was going to, yeah. He was very eloquently spoken about, and I think he was just kind of like, then the whole plead the fifth, I choose not to say, unless you have an active attorney back behind you.
That's the weird thing too. It's the same thing when you listen to Bundy. When Bundy, especially toward the end of his trials, when he was representing himself and he spoke about himself in the third person,
right?
And it was that whole thing where he talked about, I didn't do these things. I watched somebody else who looked like me do these things.
Right.
It's almost like with Ramirez, I wasn't really there. I was watching myself controlled by somebody else doing this.
Right.
But he didn't really sound like he was pushing it off on a third person, though. But
he didn't want to take claim to anything.
Yeah, he didn't want to own up to what he did. But it didn't really sound like he was pushing it off on a third person, whether that third person be himself.
Hail Satan.
I mean, that's who he'd be, that's who we would blame it on, if anything, if he, could. It wasn't me, it was Satan.
And that was another thing I wanted to hit on, the whole satanic panic of the 80s.
So much heavy metal, oh my gosh. It was just horrible.
Yeah. So, Al Gore's lovely wife, Tipper Gore, she starts up this PMRC shit. And says that, heavy metal lyrics are linked to Satanism and suicide and death and destruction and doom and blah, blah, blah. That was my... blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. But, and so he was seen with an AC/DC hat on. Whoop-de-frickin'-do. He had an AC/DC hat on. Satan. But
shit, back in the 80s, all I wore were heavy metal shirts.
Yeah.
Same.
What the hell?
But, Duke of Hell.
The Duke of Hell.
That's right. Motherfuckers.
Point made.
But, so, the whole, we know he had gone to one of the big speeches that Anton LaFay had done, with the Satanic Church. He went to some of his, whatever you want to call it, But
Conferences?
seminar,
Gatherings?
conference, gatherings, whatever. You know, he had gone.
Satan Con.
Yeah, so he went to DevilCon. And, you know, so he was all in trying to learn from that lifestyle. He said that, you know, how was it he put it? That there was no judgment there. You know, it's Planet Fitness. It's a judgment-free zone. Satanism.
Planet Fitness has been around forever.
Planet Fitness is Satanism.
I mean,
We serve devil pizza on Fridays.
I mean, their colors are very like 80s, purple and gold.
But
Here's the thing, though. Los Angeles in the mid-'80s was the perfect ground for Satanism anyways, because anything went in Los Angeles in the mid-'80s.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That just reminds me. Remember that show we were watching about the kids cooking?
yeah,
This one kid called LA the melting pot of the melting pot. And it's like, dude, where'd you come up
you're 12.
You're 12. How did you come up with that? But I mean, that totally makes sense. It is a melting pot of the melting pot.
I lived in L.A. in the late 80s into the early 90s. I was out there for a long time. Just the things I was able to do. Mm-hmm. And I didn't get that deep in. I mean, it was literally, if you wanted to do it, you could find it. And
Right.
it wasn't hard to find.
Right.
It wasn't hard to find. Hey, I've never been in a group sex thing. Oh, okay. Here's 7 people I know that are all having some kind of group sex thing this weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Can I get their number?
After. Okay. But I mean, it literally was anything you wanted to do, you could do. Mm-hmm. So here you got a guy who literally didn't have ties to anything or anybody. He could do whatever he wanted. Mm-hmm. It was the perfect breeding ground for what ended up happening.
Yeah. But where I was going with the whole satanic thing and all that is, you know, they said, you know, he was wearing the AC/DC hat and all that. And then all the, you know, the pentagrams started showing up at the death scenes.
Well, it started with the 2 80-year-old ladies.
Yeah.
Sisters.
The pentagram on the wall and one on her thigh.
Yeah.
You know, and so was he writing the whole satanic panic thing in LA at the time to help get that pushed up there to where he becomes more, you know.
Yeah, did he actually believe in it, or was he just following the wave?
I think it was perfect timing for that.
Yeah.
Right?
I think he actually helped create a lot of that wave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because like I said, when I got out there, I was going to school out there, and because it was a year after, it was the year of his trial when I was first out there, and you could go to. I went to a Church of Christ college, and I got invited to go to a late party in L.A. one night. It was supposedly a satanic party that was being thrown in an old church. They turned an old church into a rave club, basically.
Wow.
In 1989.
Wow.
And I was invited by a bunch of the people I went to school with at this very private Church of Christ school. I showed up there, half the school population was there in downtown LA in an old abandoned church that they had turned into a satanic rave for the night.
Wow.
Wow.
And I went, oh, naked people.
And ecstasy.
It's naked people.
They're everywhere.
They were. I was 22. I went, oh, that's cool. I like that.
I like this.
More naked people.
Everywhere.
See, completely side note, I just want to say that I, too, had a connection with this person, this evil being. I lived in El Paso when he did. That just trips me out. It does trip me out because he didn't move out to LA until 84. Mm-hmm. I didn't leave El Paso until 85. So the fact that me and my family were in El Paso at the same time.
Didn't stay at a Holiday Inn, did you?
No, we stayed at an Army base, so we're good.
Yeah, because, he worked at the Holiday Inn, and he got fired there and got his ass beat by somebody's husband.
Well, that's the other weird thing, too. I mean, talking about the Holiday Inn, because for a little while in L.A., he stayed at the Cecil Hotel.
Sure did.
You can't talk about Ramirez without talking about the Cecil. And that's, of course, it's become a big thing again recently, the Cecil Hotel, and it's still closed, and supposedly it might be opening sometime later this year. But the thing is, if you do any research into the Cecil and where it's at, I mean, if you've heard of Skid Row, not the band, but the actual Skid Row. Skid Row is probably, I mean, if you think of, that street in your town where where the drug dealers, the prostitutes, and all the homeless people hang out. Now multiply that by about, I don't know, maybe another 500,000 people. You've got Skid Row in Los Angeles.
Right. Yeah.
And it was the worst of the worst places to be. And the Cecil is literally in the middle of it. It's at the end of Skid Row. And it was the place that, if Skid Row was a little bit uptown, you went to the Cecil.
Right.
It's a horrible place. So he was surrounded by this entire, again, just pit of despair. And that's where he went, okay, I can thrive here.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fucking weird dude.
He is. 100%.
And again, I don't know if I really believe in the whole thing that he said, I'm a Satanist, I worship.
Right.
That may have been an easy thing to say.
And see, that's what I'm thinking.
In the court case.
So do you think at that time, I mean, because of the so-called satanic panic, that there was a possibility that had, by him claiming to be a Satanist, that, because it was freaky and taboo, that, he figured that any judge would be like, this dude's crazy. He's insane. He's insane.
You know what? And if he did practice Satanism, who's to say that he didn't call on something that took over his being and helped him along
It's true.
with these heinous crimes?
Yes, very possible.
And by no means do I agree with Satanism. I don't. But I would have to say that the majority of Satanists don't go out and murder people. That's not what they do.
Right.
It's not necessarily how they run things, because they're not trying to get a bad rap. They're already running with a really, a bad rap. So
I think with satanic panic and all of that, I think that Ramirez got caught up in that because he was looking for someplace to be accepted. Mm-hmm. And I think that he found acceptance in this group that didn't care.
Right.
They didn't judge you. They didn't judge anybody. And I think that's where he found his acceptance. And I think that when he started putting the pentagrams on everything, I don't necessarily think that he had a thought that, well, I'm going to, help with this agenda. I think that he just felt like this was where he was accepted.
Right.
And the two just kind of dovetailed. It helped with the panic.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you think that maybe by saying that he was the Satanist and all that, do you think that maybe he was thinking that when he went to court, if he ever got caught, if he went to court, he'd get that insanity plea? No?
I think
Isn't that
he
exactly
knew it
what
would
I
give
said?
him a little more notoriety.
Is that what you just said?
that's exactly what I just said.
I think he was using it more as, hey, look at me.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this and shock everybody. I'm going to stand up in court as I walk out and say, Hail Satan.
Because it was a
out.
shock factor.
Yeah, it's all shock factor. It's 1989, and if I stand up and say Hail Satan as I'm walking out of court, everyone's going to talk about me, and that's what they're going to put on the news. And you know what? Everyone talked about him, and they put it on the news.
It's true.
I don't even know if he claims he went and saw Anton LaVey. I didn't think he saw Anton LaVey. I don't think he knew any Satanists. I think he literally said,
this is what's going to get me.
If I draw a pentagram and if I draw one on my hand, it's going to make the news. Because what happened? Because I want to be more famous than Manson.
Yeah, and Bundy.
And all these
and
guys.
the Green River Killer.
Because right at that moment, in that moment, we were 20 years away from Manson, but that was still what L.A. talked about.
Yeah.
Was Manson. You knew L.A. because of Manson. Then when the Night Stalker came around, because right before that it was the Hillside. What was the Hillside Strangler?
Yeah, that's it.
It was Hillside Strangler, and L.A. was in this panic about the Hillside Strangler, and suddenly along came the Night Stalker, and L.A. went into a fucking panic. I mean, it was lock your doors, because we don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
He was killing men, women, children. He'd leave people alive. He'd rape some people. He'd kill other people. There was no reasoning to anything he did.
Yeah. I mean, he did.
He was the most confused serial killer. He was just like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yes.
But I'm just going to do what I think this is what I'm doing.
But he got more attention and more attention and more attention. He had one of the largest cities in the world completely at a panic, at a standstill.
Yeah.
And then he said, well,
the whole state.
Yeah. He said, what can I do to bump it up? Oh, I'm going to start drawing pentagrams on shit.
You know what was one? I mean, all the stories were sad, but there was this one elderly couple, and when all this crap was going down, I think it was either the woman's daughter or granddaughter was was it her granddaughter? Yeah. Was like, hey, you need to make sure you lock your doors. There's this crazy guy out on the loose. And the grandmother's like, I don't want to live in fear. I'm not gonna lock my doors and all that. What happens? Dadgummit if he doesn't go in there and kill them.
Yep, both of them.
And it's like, oh, if you just listened and locked your doors, you would have been that much closer to living.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. How about we take a quick break? And when we come back, we'll break down with some of the victims.
Okay.
And talk about the things that happened when he attacked them. So, you guys, don't go anywhere, because this is where we get to the, for lack of better words, juicy parts. So, we'll see in a minute.
No.
So many people spend hundreds or even thousands of dollars on that perfect infrared camera, hoping to catch that epic paranormal shot or simply to document their nighttime escapades, only to pair it up with an IR illuminator that gives off a hotspot in the center of the frame and performs subpar for their camera's capabilities. We did the same thing. Let me save you some time and money spent on multiple IR lights with one name, Deadlight. Created from the minds of Josh Bender and Justin Brown, who are also paranormal investigators, the Deadlight is the elite light to add to your camera arsenal. We have tested the Deadlight and illuminated areas up to 300 feet away. Did I mention these lights are built like a tank? Super durable and sturdy construction. Josh builds each Deadlight to meet your needs and is in constant contact during the building process. So forget the other lights out there and go straight to the best. You can check out the complete line of Deadlights on Facebook at Deadlight LLC. Justin and Josh are constantly exploring new features to add to the Deadlights. ETGS will never use another light in the field, simply because nothing else compares. Get your Deadlight today and you too can light up the night.
You're listening to Parrot Talk with East and Seco Seekers, a new perspective in paranormal talk radio.
Looking for a way to get your paranormal fix in the spring? How about joining us at the 2021 Screamfest Paranormal Festival at the historic Cleve Mansion? Presented by the Scream Chamber Haunted Attraction, located at 1163 Highway 11 North in Athens, Tennessee, 37303. With nearly 200 years of death and murder inside its walls, the mansion contains an abundance of paranormal activity. The festival is scheduled for Saturday, March 27th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Vendors and special guests in the paranormal field will be on site for the festival.
So come by and take a daytime history tour of the mansion. Hang out and bring your questions to the guests. And enjoy some food from the vendors. When darkness falls, get your scare on inside the mansion's haunted attraction. The haunted house will be open Friday and Saturday night, March 26th and 27th for all you thrill seekers. If you are interested in being a vendor or special guest at the Screamfest Paranormal Festival, please contact thescreamchamber@gmail.com. Join us in making this event one that will grow into something everyone will be talking about. This event will follow all COVID-19 guidelines, so rest easy knowing you can come out and enjoy some thrilling, safe, and scary fun.
You're listening to Paratalk. If you have a question or an experience to share, email us at etgsparatalk@gmail.com or call 865-264-0448. And now, back to Paratalk.
All right, we're back. And I got this funny look when we left for my choice of words when we exited.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
What's up, Sam?
What were those words?
Words?
The juicy parts.
At least he didn't say moist, juicy parts.
Jesus
Oh my God.
Christ.
Come on.
Thank you, Amy.
This is a fucking family show. Come on.
What kind of family are you
A
in?
fucking family.
You are a smelly pirate hooker.
Yes!
Pirate hooker.
Yes, I am.
So, just to let you guys know, this is part 1 of 4 on serial killers. We're going to cover serial killers every week this month. So, I don't know if we're going to... We may hit on a couple that we haven't talked about before and devote a little more time to them. But I just want to discuss serial killers in general. You know, what made them tick? What, you know, their thoughts, you know...
That's why so many people are interested in serial killers, is because everybody wants to know, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
The intrigue
goes on in that tiny little peanut brain to make you think that it's okay to go and rape and murder people. Yeah. Thank you.
Gobble, gobble, motherfucker!
Serious.
Damn.
For a minute there.
Watch your mouth.
Sorry about that.
But anyway, so like I said, when we left, that when we come back, we're going to discuss these people that saw their end due to the hands of Richard Ramirez.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll go around the room, and you guys can
share our stories around the table.
Yeah, take turns talking about these people. Don't pass parts around the table or anything.
Share our stories.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Amy, and I'm a paraholic.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Amy. Welcome, Amy.
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious shit.
Yeah. So, welcome, Amy.
So we're at about 80.
86 right now.
Okay. All right, so we're going to start off at June 28th of 1984, 79-year-old Janine Vincow was found brutally murdered in her apartment in Glassell Park in Los Angeles. She had been stabbed repeatedly while asleep in her bed. Her throat was slashed so deeply that she was nearly decapitated. Ramirez's fingerprint was found on a mesh screen he removed to gain access through an open window.
Okay, so that, so what was the problem with lifting that fingerprint?
It's probably kind of hard to on a screen, I would think.
Well, and I mean, they used back in the day like
they still
dust.
do. They still do.
Okay, it's kind of hard to dust a mesh.
Yeah, you're not going to get like a full print on a screen because all of your little loops and whirls aren't going to be there.
Right.
So they're like, Oh, if only this were a solid piece. We could have them.
That's exactly the face and expression
That was,
they made.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
If only this were the window.
Or the windowsill.
Or the wall.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Okay. Next, we skip ahead to March 17th, 1985. Ramirez attacked 22-year-old Maria Hernandez outside her home in Rosemead, California, shooting her in the face with a .22 caliber handgun after she pulled into her garage. She survived when the bullet ricocheted off the keys she held in her hands as she lifted them to protect herself. Inside the house, her roommate, Dale Yoshi Okazaki,
good job.
I got it, age 34, heard the gunshot and ducked behind a counter when she saw Ramirez enter the kitchen. When she raised her head, he shot her once in the forehead, killing her. Within an hour of the Rosemead home invasion, Ramirez pulled 30-year-old Celianne Veronica Yu out of her car in Monterey Park, shot her twice with a .22 caliber handgun, and fled. She was pronounced dead upon arrival at the hospital. The two murders and attempted third in a single day attracted extensive coverage from news media who dubbed the attacker, described as curly-haired with bulging eyes and wide-spaced rotting teeth, the walk-in killer and the valley intruder. And it's interesting how he tried for a twofer.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he actually got a twofer.
Yeah.
He tried for 3. That's like, damn it, what were their names? Never mind. I'll come back to it. I'll circle back around maybe.
Well, you know, a little fun fact. Fun
facts with Andrea.
Fun fact with Andrea. Apparently, while he was incarcerated, he got brand new teeth
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
the state paid for.
That the state of California paid for.
Well, he had some fucked up choppers.
Yeah, he did.
He didn't beat that cancer, though, did he?
No, he didn't.
Motherfucker got what he deserved.
He didn't suffer enough.
No, he
No,
didn't.
he didn't.
He really
suffer
didn't.
enough. He didn't stay in there long enough. March 27th, 1985. Why am I sounding like Robert Stack?
I like that.
Do it.
Ramirez entered a home that he had burglarized a year earlier just outside of Whittier, California, approximately 2 a.m., and killed the sleeping Vincent Charles Zazzara, age 64, with a gunshot to his head from a .22 caliber handgun. Zazzara's wife, Maxine Lavinia Zazzara, age 44, was awakened by the gunshot, and Ramirez beat her and bound her hands while demanding to know where her valuables were. While he ransacked the room, Maxine escaped her bonds and retrieved a shotgun from under the bed, which was not loaded. This infuriated Ramirez. He shot her 3 times with the .22, then fetched a large carving knife from the kitchen. He mutilated her body by stabbing her several times, then gouged out her eyes and placed them in a jewelry box, which he left with. The autopsy determined that the mutilations were post-mortem. Vincent and Maxine's bodies were discovered by their son, Peter. Ramirez left footprints from a pair of Avia sneakers in the flower beds, which the police photographed and cast. This was virtually the only evidence that the police had at the time. Bullets found at the scene were matched to those found at previous attacks, and the police determined that a serial killer was at large.
That was
Thank you.
freaking fantastic.
Yeah, so this one was one of the ones that, like, when I watched the documentary on Netflix and all the other documentaries that I watched and everything, this was the one that got me. You know, gouging her eyes out, putting them in a jewelry box to take with him. You know, I mean,
Beyond brutal.
beyond brutal. And, you know, that's when, you know, if the cops hadn't put together a profile yet, there's your
Here's your
profile.
sign.
You know, that's where he entered the profile, when he took something from the crime to go back with him. You know, I mean,
A souvenir.
You know, something to whack off to, you know, and think about what he did. That's all that was.
They never found her eyes.
No.
Oh.
No. Yeah.
Disgusting possibility, but
What if he ate him?
think he ate him?
yeah.
Yeah. Very possible.
I think he used him as anal beads.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You sick motherfucker. They actually, there was a psychiatrist that thinks that the reason he cut her eyes out is because she would not stop watching him while he killed her husband. And they actually, the thing with the eyes has been used in a couple different movies, and it's traced right back to Ramirez.
Yeah.
How fucking out of control do you have to be to go, okay, you wouldn't stop watching me while I was killing your husband and raping you and robbing your house. I'm going to cut your eyes out now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the first modern day inebriator.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because for somebody who likes to see the fear in the eyes, would hate to be watched.
Yeah. Or
maybe that victim had the most fear that he's seen in any of his victims, so he wanted to.
That was the trophy for
The
it.
trophy, you know,
Or worse yet, she didn't look scared enough for him.
Right.
Ooh.
So he said, oh, well, fine, then I'm going to take your eyes.
Yeah. Now you're scary. Yeah.
Twisted.
Yeah. But that's the one, you know, they're all bad. They're all horrible. But that was the one that hit me the most. I mean, there's some more coming up that are gruesome and horrible.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, that one is just like, he went from shooting, you know, to, take your eyes.
Go on, Steve. You're next.
In May 14th, 1985, Ramirez returned to Monterey Park and entered the home of Bill Doy, age 66, and his disabled wife, Lillian, age 56. Surprising Doy in his bedroom, Ramirez shot him in the face with a .22 semi-automatic pistol as Doy went for his own handgun. After beating the mortally wounded man into unconsciousness, Ramirez entered Lillian's bedroom, bound her with thumb cuffs, then raped her after he had ransacked the home for valuables. Bill Doy died of his injuries while in the hospital.
And Lillian was, what is the word?
An invalid.
An invalid. The fact that he,
spared her.
well, the fact that he, sees an incapable person to fight back, he does it anyway.
Yeah.
And not only rapes her, but rapes her brutally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sodomized her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, leads into this next one, actually. May 29th of 1985. Ramirez drove a stolen car to Monrovia and stopped at the house of Mabel Ma Bell, aged 83, and her disabled sister Florence Nettie Lang, aged 81. Finding a hammer in the kitchen, he bludgeoned and bound Lang in her bedroom, then bound and bludgeoned Bell before using an electrical cord to shock the woman. After raping Lang, he used Bell's lipstick to draw the satanic pentagram symbol on her thigh, as well as on the wall of both bedrooms. The women were found 2 days later, alive but comatose. Bell later died of her injuries. 80 freaking years old.
And you beat them with a hammer.
And the fact that, and I believe, and Florence, Nettie, the disabled sister, survived. But I guarantee you, Ma was the one taking care of her. So she, whatever happened to her, she probably had to go into, a special home, a hospital, or whatever. And, I mean...
Yeah.
And I'm sure even though she was disabled, she knew what was going on.
Right.
She knew what happened.
Yeah. Sad. All right, Amy.
May 30th, 1985, Ramirez drove the same car to Burbank and sneaked into the home of Carol Kyle, age 42. At gunpoint, he bound Kyle and her 11-year-old son with handcuffs, then ransacked the house. He released Kyle to direct him to where the family's valuables were. He then raped her repeatedly. Ramirez also repeatedly ordered her not to look at him, telling her at one point that he would cut her eyes out. He fled the scene after retrieving the child from the closet and binding the two together again with the handcuffs.
Jeez.
I don't want to make light of any of this, but I will say that if anyone were to come to me and ask me where my family's valuables were, I would tell them, I'm not sure. Let me help you find them. Because I ain't got any.
Yeah.
I mean, in the event of something like that, I think I'd be screwed. Sorry, I ain't got no valuables.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stay out of the office.
Just don't go to the office.
If you can carry my adjustable bed out of the basement, you can have it.
Yes.
Now we're going to report back to the field with Robert. Robert, what do you have next?
July 2nd, 1985. He drove a stolen car to Arcadia and randomly selected the house of Mary Louise Kennan, age 75, a widowed grandmother. After quietly entering Kennan's home, he found her asleep in her bedroom. He bludgeoned her into unconsciousness with a lamp and then repeatedly stabbed her using a 10-inch butcher knife from her kitchen. She was found dead at the scene. He beats a 75-year-old widowed grandmother basically to death with a lamp and then stabs her over 15 times with a 10-inch butcher knife.
Yeah. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Overkill.
Yeah.
Literally.
Ruthless. Yeah.
Overkill.
Ruthless, heartless. I mean, I think at this point he's trying to see how big of a mess he can make. Yeah.
You know, it actually surprises me that this person, and I'm sure being middle of the night, there's not going to be a lot of people out or anything, but somebody can do this much damage and cause such a mess that not one person is going to be walking out in, the streets and be like, why is he covered in blood?
So this goes directly to something that Steve and I were talking about the other day.
Yeah.
Because we were both talking about the original Amityville horror.
Yep.
The original house where the DeFeo family was killed by their son,
Robert.
Ronnie DeFeo.
Ronnie, yeah.
Ronald DeFeo. He was able to fire 9 shots from a rifle at 3:15 in the morning. The closest house was about 50 feet away. There was another house about 30 yards away on the other side. There were houses in this neighborhood. They weren't separated by big. It was 3:15 in the morning. He fired 9 shots. Nobody in the house woke up, and nobody around the house woke up hearing a shot. One guy said all he remembers hearing was a dog barking.
Yeah. So, I mean, in the DeFeo case, when that first shot's fired, if it's fired in my dining room and I'm in the bed, I'm going to hear that shit.
Yeah.
And
Not
that's
me, because I'm a heavy sleeper.
But no, you would hear a gunshot and come up. You heard the thunder the other night.
But I wasn't fully asleep yet.
Okay, anyway, I'm sorry. You're going to hear those shots fired in your house. And how they didn't and how none of the neighbors did, no idea. But that's the same thing here. Houses right next to each other in L.A. You don't have
Nobody's going to hear screaming, shots fired.
They only hear what they want to hear.
And that's true. Actually, Piper actually mentioned, didn't he sit down and have a meal after these? I think in a couple
different times.
He
went through the fridge.
And, there
had
was
a snack.
Yeah. Had him a nice
in
little
the
snack.
middle of killing someone. I better grab an apple.
Man, I am out of energy. I need a banana.
One of the houses.
Canned cheese.
I prefer the
Where's
squeezy
the fucking
cheese.
canned cheese?
I prefer the squeezy cheese.
But I mean, one of the houses he actually emptied the fridge. He ate everything they had in their refrigerator.
Well, and Sarmenti actually brings up a good point. In LA, gunshots, those are kind of a common.
Yeah, but you know what? I lived in LA for a long time. If you still hear a gunshot, you hear a fucking gunshot.
Yeah.
And more than likely, you either do one of two things. You go to see what's happening, or you get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially in some of these neighborhoods.
Yeah.
These are places you and I have been, especially in some of these neighborhoods.
I mean, where he lived down there by the Cecil, yeah, you could hear a gunshot and nothing would happen. But if you're in Monrovia, if you're in Glendale, if you're in Sierra Madre, if you're in any of these places and suddenly there's a gunshot, somebody's going to call the police.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to hear something. Somebody's going to go, oh, we know that this 81-year-old laser. We maybe better go find out what's going on. We maybe better call. We maybe better do something.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that especially with the two older women, 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was no gunshot.
Well, that's
he
the
bludgeoned
thing.
them.
That's the thing, though. See, and that's because maybe someone's out there listening going, hey, well, I thought this was a paranormal show. With all these people killing people, there's something there. There's something that lets them get away with this in some way, shape, or form. And we've talked about it with Bundy, where he was able to, in the same day, kidnap 2 different women on a crowded beach.
Yeah.
In front of hundreds of people, and nobody caught him.
Yeah.
In front of people that were right there 10 feet away. Nobody said it.
A cop.
Yeah.
A cop saw him approaching people.
Nobody did anything.
Did nothing.
Ronald DeFeo was able to shoot his entire family, fire 9 shots in the middle of the night. Nobody heard anything.
Yeah.
Nobody in the house heard anything.
And
people fucking 2 doors down in the house didn't get up and move.
Yeah.
Didn't move from their bed. They were all found laying face down on their beds. They didn't fucking move.
Yeah.
This guy was able to go through all these months and almost a couple of years, kill all these people, and it took basically just a little mistake one day that got him caught.
Yeah.
We live in
adjusting the rear view mirror.
Yeah.
We live in a relatively rural area right now, and when we have neighbors that just go out and just
shoot their guns.
Shoot the gun off. The other day, I don't know if you guys remember, he was just out there shooting them off, and I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, it wasn't late at night. I was just kind of like, okay, this is getting ridiculous, because it was like bam, bam. And I walked out on the front porch, and I'm like looking over, and I see the dude. He's bringing his gun back in and walking inside. And they were like, yeah, that's smart.
Yeah.
You go outside and, when somebody's shooting a gun. And I'm like, because I want to see what the hell he's shooting at, because I'm like, this is annoying. Stop.
And Sir Mandy, we're not saying it's anything. We're not saying we don't know what it is. All we're saying is that when all you look at all these cases, something happened that allowed these people to get away with as much as they got away with somehow. Yeah. And Ramirez is a perfect example.
Yeah,
because he should have been caught hundreds of times.
Oh, he should have been caught the first time.
And nothing, literally, like Steve said, stopping to adjust your rearview mirror.
Yep. And because as messy as these crime scenes were,
they were horrible.
He cleaned up after himself. Yeah. There was not a fingerprint left on anything when he left.
Now, I remember seeing in this as, it's could be completely movie-ized.
Okay.
Staged.
Fictionalized.
Yes. That in some of the cars that he was driving around, you could always see a pair of gloves. Maybe he always wore gloves.
Well, I mean,
there's reports that he went back to the Cecil with bloody clothes and just walked down through the hotel. It's not that
and people don't care.
People didn't care. He took clothes out into the back in the alley, tossed them in the dumpster, and walked back inside.
Yep.
And nobody said anything.
Yeah, and was seen doing it.
Now, granted, we talked about the fact that people just didn't give a shit. They don't care. But there's somebody somewhere at one point that's got to go,
so that's a little weird. Yeah.
Why is he always showing up in bloody clothes?
He must work at a butcher shop. Yeah. But I mean, for real. I mean, the Cecil, he was seen throwing clothes in dumpsters. He was seen changing his clothes in the alleyway, pulling these bloody clothes off. But where did it go from there? Nowhere.
And not one person decided,
these
that's
are not
weird.
the droid you're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
all right.
But if you consider where the Cecil's located, if you consider that it's Skid Row, that's very much a mind your own damn business area.
Oh, yeah.
So he picked a perfect place to stay. But still, someone somewhere had to see him bloody and go, what the fuck has that guy been doing?
Right.
But nobody said,
what the fuck's that guy been doing?
Yeah, nobody said, maybe I should call someone.
Yeah. Hey, man, do you need some help?
Yeah. I mean,
Are you
that's
the
my
one that's injured?
first reaction. If I see somebody that's covered in blood, I'm going to be like,
Are you okay?
Are you okay?
Yeah.
As opposed to, what did you do?
Exactly.
I'd probably be thinking, what the fuck did you do? Mike, you're covered in blood.
It's just a Saturday, that's all. It's not my blood anyways. Don't worry about it. Shut the fuck up.
I tried to donate it.
I never underestimate the don't give a fuck factor people have.
No.
And I know that where he was staying, it was really a mind your own business thing. But living in the world that we live in, there has to be one person that you come across walking down the road where you've got blood on you that goes, ooh.
And questions
That's
it.
bad.
Questions it regardless.
So I wonder if maybe because that look he always had in his eye, I wonder if he was so giving off that don't fuck with me vibe that
nobody
people
messed with
just left him be.
Yeah.
Which is possible.
It is.
I mean, he's definitely an evil-looking man. Evil-looking man.
And apparently he did not smell well.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Described it by one of the people that he smelled like a goat.
Yes.
I
Yes.
smell goats.
They
don't smell
No,
don't
they
smell
stink. Yeah.
Goat covered in blood. You walk the other way.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mess with it.
That's true, Sormenti. In a bad neighborhood, someone that is covered in blood is someone you don't interact with. That is true. I would not actually approach anybody covered in blood and be like, I'd probably call the police more than anything.
Want to go get a cup of coffee?
No.
But here's the thing, though, Sarmet. He didn't spend all his time just in that one neighborhood. He left other neighborhoods to get back to that neighborhood. That's the problem.
Nice neighborhood.
Yeah, very nice neighborhood. Neighborhoods where somebody would go, hey, there's a guy who doesn't look like us walking around in our neighborhood at night. We're going to call the cops. More than one person would do that. But nobody ever did.
Right.
Yeah. Except one little boy. And we'll get to that.
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
Why don't you read that next one?
Roger. On July 5th, 1985, Ramirez broke into a home in Sierra Madre and bludgeoned 16-year-old Whitney Bennett with a tire iron as she slept in her bedroom. After searching in vain for a knife in the kitchen, Ramirez attempted to strangle the girl with a telephone cord. He stated that he was startled to see electrical sparks emanate from the cord, and when his victim began to breathe, he fled the house believing that Jesus Christ had intervened and saved her. Bennett survived the savage beating, although 478 stitches were required to close the lacerations to her scalp.
And again, her family was home and right down the hall.
Yeah, they said.
And nobody heard a damn thing.
Really? I mean, right? That
Yeah.
is just insane.
Yeah,
that
and-
this poor girl was bludgeoned, that needed 478 stitches, and not one person woke up and said, "What is that noise?"
Yeah. They said it was 4 feet of sutures that they had to use. 4 feet of sutures to close her head up. Yeah.
I mean, he was obviously looking to kill her. Now, the crazy thing is that he didn't rape her. I mean, I think he did ransack her room.
Mm-hmm.
But that was it. And he was like, you know what? Screw you. I'm going to try to kill you and book it. Like, so.
But bludgeoning somebody in the skull with a fucking tire iron, that would sound like a gunshot going off.
Oh, God,
Yes.
You know,
Enough to cause 478 freaking stitches? Yeah.
You're going to hear metal hitting bone.
Yes.
And even if she's asleep, would there not be whimpers, yelps?
Well, there's going to be a
screams?
sound of somebody having
It's like tearing the room
well,
apart.
not just that, but you're going to have the sound of somebody having a physical confrontation with another person. That's not quiet.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's not quiet. And that's the thing. When I mean, there's something paranormal with a lot of these because it just doesn't make sense that somebody didn't go, what the fuck? What's that
Yeah,
sound?
what is that?
I know when I'm a very, very heavy sleeper, but if something doesn't sound right in my house, I'm fucking awake right like immediately.
Yeah.
See, and I can understand, okay. I can kind of understand. You hear a gunshot outside your house. You might not act on it. I understand there's a possibility you may not act on that. when there is something going on in your house like this, especially a parent, I will tell you, as a parent, and Amy, you may be able to agree with me on this. For the longest time, as a parent, and especially a mother, sorry guys, when your kid coughs,
you hear it
in the middle of the night, you're dead asleep, you hear it, you're up. When you hear your kid gag, ready to vomit, you're running to their room. I mean, screw you, Mike. But I mean, so to not know that your child is being brutally beaten, even 16 years, I still sleep with my door open because I'm afraid, it's just that whole subconscious that at least I know I could hear if something were going on in my kid's room.
So I don't sleep with my door open. My youngest is 20, and I still hear everything she does in the middle of the night.
Oh, we can hear the heavy foot of Xander.
Yeah. Not only that, but...
Yeah, tell me about it.
That boy ain't sneaking nowhere.
Not only that, but I live, kind of in redneck central over where I'm at, and we've got a
Judy Chop.
Actually, that guy's not far from. He lives down the road.
No.
He's actually a really great guy. Steven went to school with him. But
yeah, on the book face.
But there's a place that's across the lake from us where the guy owns his own shooting gallery basically, and I hear it if he goes out there in the middle of the night and shoots, and that's over a mile away.
Yeah,
you don't not hear it.
Yeah.
So my personal theory is that evil protects evil.
That's the thing, Sarmenti. Yeah, she may have gotten hit. She may have been hit the first time and got knocked unconscious. But the problem is that's not a silent act he was doing. He hit her several times. All you got to do is take with a metal tire iron, just take a piece of wood and hit it against a ham hock. You're gonna hear the smack of it.
Yeah.
Now take a metal piece of take a tire iron and smack it against something where there's bone. You're gonna
smack it against that wood.
Yeah, you're gonna hear that sound.
Yeah.
It wasn't silent, but it was silent. And in the middle of the night, it's definitely not silent.
No.
But it was that night.
Yeah.
It was
something there. Something there. All right, Andy.
All right. So, July 7th, 1985. Ramirez burglarized the home of Joyce Lucille Nelson, age 61, in Monterey Park. Finding her asleep on her living room couch, he beat her to death by using his fist and kicking her in the head. A shoe print from an Avia sneaker was left imprinted on her face. After cruising to other neighborhoods, he returned to Monterey Park and chose the home of Sophie Dickman, age 63. Ramirez assaulted and handcuffed Dickman at gunpoint, attempted to rape her, and stole her jewelry. When she swore to him that he had taken everything of value, he told her to swear on Satan.
Yeah. You know how hard you have to kick someone to leave an imprint of your shoe?
Yeah. Especially a tennis shoe.
Yeah.
Pretty hard. I've tried.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I've kicked somebody before when they were down, during a fight. I've kicked the shit out of somebody. I've never left my shoe imprint on them. Yeah.
And that's the first one that I think that he's ever actually used his fist to actually beat them.
Yeah. It's
There's
always
been something.
Yeah. All right, Amy.
July 20th, 1985, Ramirez purchased a machete before driving a stolen Toyota to Glendale, California. He chose the home of Leila Needing, age 66, and her husband Maxon, age 68. He burst into the sleeping couple's bedroom and hacked them with the machete, then killed them with shots to the head from a .22 caliber handgun. He further mutilated their bodies with the machete before robbing the house of valuables. After quickly fencing the stolen items from the Needing residence, Ramirez drove to Sun Valley. At approximately 4:15 a.m., he broke into the home of the Covenant family. Thank you, Mike. He shot the sleeping Shanarong Covenant in the head with a .25 caliber handgun, killing him instantly. Then repeatedly raped and beat some kid Covenant and beat the couple's terrified 8-year-old son before dragging some kid around the house to reveal the location of any valuable items which he stole. During his assault, he demanded that she swear to Satan that she was not hiding any money from him.
Jeez. I'm telling you, dude. He was, at this point, he's trying to see how big of a mess he can make.
Yeah.
I mean, because, you hack them up, you shoot them, and then you continue to hack them up some more with the machete.
Well, and also, I think it also shows that I think at this time his drug use was skyrocketing, so he was needing more and more valuables to sell so he could afford his addiction.
It's not just the whole making a mess thing, though. It's about the thrill.
Yeah.
He's not getting the same rush that he was getting it.
Right.
And then
the sexual satisfaction.
Yeah.
Well, not just the sexual satisfaction, but the look what I can do, that rush.
Yeah.
And that's probably why he switched to his fists, because he was like, well, this isn't working for me. Let's do this.
Right.
I mean, if you do the same thing over and over again, it gets boring.
Right.
I
get
would
complacent
imagine
with it.
Well, I would imagine even murdering people, the same thing. If you use the same method again and again, it wouldn't give you the same rush.
And that's probably why there was so much variation in the manner in which he killed them.
Oh, look at that. I mean, he killed 2 families in one day.
Yeah.
One
was
he was able to
macheted.
do one machete and shoot them, and then again able to drive to another place, shoot another person,
rape and beat another
and
one.
torture and murder.
And it's like, it's not only the how much of a mess and trying to get the thrill, but the fact that I'm now at the point where I can do anything I want.
Yeah.
I'm completely untouchable.
What's crazy?
I'm a god.
Yeah.
I can take and give life if I want to, and no one will stop me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm invisible, because my whole life nobody paid attention to me. Obviously, I'm still invisible because I can do whatever I want, and they still can't pay attention to me.
I've killed how many people? Yeah.
And almost every single one of these that involve a woman, he has assaulted them.
Mm-hmm.
In that last one, it doesn't mention that he assaulted the wife. He just killed both the wife and the husband, but then he had moved on to that second house.
And he assaulted her
And he
there.
assaulted the woman there.
Yeah.
So it's like almost every single time and the ones that have the doubles, the 2 in one night, it's like he didn't do
something that first time.
The assault didn't happen that first time, so he went the second time and assaulted.
So he could finish up everything that he starts that night. Yeah.
There's the pattern. Figured it out. I'm good.
And here's the thing, too. I mean, unless you've been out to Los Angeles, when we're reading all these different places, Arcadia, Burbank, Sierra Madre, Monterey Park, Glendale, Northridge, you have to understand, these are not little places that are 1 or 2 miles apart or a couple blocks apart. You're talking about, in some places, 30, 40 miles apart. Mm-hmm. And he's just randomly going to just all these different places.
Yep. Well, and the fact that he went to San Francisco... Mm-hmm. Which was a decent bus ride, and then back within a couple of days. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was just like...
Well, the night of doing the 2 that he did in the one night where he went from Glendale to Sun Valley, you're talking about a 35-mile difference in 2 places, 2 completely different towns.
Wow.
They say they're part. It's not a lot part of... Glendale's all by itself. Sun Valley's a completely different area. I mean, he's traveling just hours on end, but doing it without a single person even going, hey, there's a weird car in our neighborhood, and these people just died. And you get to Northridge. August 6, 1985, Ramirez drives to Northridge. This bothers me because I lived in Northridge for many, many years. Mm. Broke into the home of Chris and Virginia Patterson. He crept into the bedroom, startled Virginia, age 27, shot her in the face. He's now moved on to a .25 caliber semi-automatic handgun. He then shoots Chris in the neck, attempts to flee. Chris fights back while avoiding being hit by 2 more shots during the struggle before Ramirez managed to escape. He shot both these people in this couple. They both survived their injuries.
He's in a 25.
Yeah.
And actually,
he would have done more damage if he'd thrown a can of Coke at him.
And is this the gun that had the old, what they called the old ammunition, and it wasn't firing properly?
Yeah, because
the firing pins were bad.
Right.
Yeah, because this is the guy that after he shot the guy
He
3
chased
times,
him.
he chased him out of the house. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, and that
I mean,
if I had shot 2 people and they managed to stay alive and one was chasing after me, I'd be booking it too. I'd be like, oh, no, I'm
He shot the wife in the face. She was sleeping. He shot her in the face and she still survived.
Yeah. And the fact that they survived and he's like, oh, they should, I'm out. Nope.
We had that question earlier. Was he really bad at? Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He was. He was really bad at attacking and killing people. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes he was really good at it.
Maybe it was the drugs. He was on bad drugs or something and totally jacked up his perception.
Well, I mean, like this guy, though, I mean, they said he stuck the gun in his mouth and pulled the trigger and it came out by his ear.
Yep.
You know, and dude jumps up and commences to Judy chopping and kung fu kicking and ran him out of the house. You know, and I'm sure, okay.
He's a zombie.
Well, you think about it. I mean, he's freaking high as hell on cocaine at this point in time. He shoots this guy 3 times, and some bitch is coming after him. Yeah.
He is tripping out.
He is tripping out right now. Yeah. All right, Steve, next night.
All right, it was 2 nights after the Northridge attacks on August 8th, 1985. Ramirez drove a stolen car to Diamond Bar, California, and chose the home of Sakina Abuwath, age 27, and her husband, Elias Abuwath, age 31. Sometime after 2:30 a.m., he entered the house and went into the master bedroom. He instantly killed the sleeping Elias with a shot to the head from a .25 caliber handgun. He handcuffed and beat Sakina while forcing her to reveal the location of the family jewelry and then brutally raped her. He repeatedly demanded that she swear on Satan that she would not scream during his assaults. When the couple's 3-year-old son entered the bedroom, Ramirez tied the child up and then continued to rape Sakina. After Ramirez left the home, Sakina untied her son and sent him to the neighbors for help. Ramirez, who had been following the media coverage for his crimes, left Los Angeles and headed to San Francisco.
Okay, this is kind of a stupid question, but I'm pretty sure I'm kind of baffled at the fact that he assumes that everyone has family jewels. Was that a thing?
It
that
was.
Everybody had family jewels? Because I'm pretty sure I don't.
Well, I mean, you know, I remember my mom, you know, back in the 80s, she had her jewelry box that she had every piece of jewelry that she owned in it, you know, and that was a big thing then. My mom, I remember that some bitch had tons of jewelry in it, you know.
Well, Mama has a lot of costume jewelry.
But you're also talking about nice neighborhoods.
Yeah.
That's true. We ain't got that.
Nice upper middle class neighborhoods.
I may be lucky to get some, you know,
Neighborhoods
nice big old
where-
necklaces with some big old, you know, flashy teal balls on them or something. I don't know.
And the family grit recipe.
That was my nickname in high school. by the
Teal
way.
balls.
Teal balls.
Teal balls.
I can see
What's up,
that.
teal balls?
I can see that.
I'll show you.
I meant to say I've seen that. You don't have to show me again.
Look!
Look at him. Look at him.
Are they supposed to be that color?
Oh, God.
They're shiny.
Oh, God, stop.
The fuck was that?
They're moist.
Moist teal balls. That's the name right there. Squishy moist teal balls.
My stripper name.
They're glistening.
Glistening moist.
Aren't you
Teal
listening?
Just throw a little glitter on them and you're good to go.
He farts glitter.
Pizzazz.
Jazz hands.
All right.
All right, real quick. Okay, so August 18th, 1985, he entered the home of Peter and Barbara Pan. He shot the sleeping Peter Pan, age 66, in the temple with a .25 caliber handgun. He then beat and sexually assaulted Barbara, age 62, before shooting her in the head and leaving her for dead. At the crime scene, Ramirez used lipstick to scrawl a pentagram and the phrase, "Jack the knife," on the bedroom wall. When it was discovered that the ballistics on the shoe print evidence from Los Angeles crime scenes matched the Pan crime scenes, San Francisco's then mayor, Dianne Feinstein, divulged the information in a televised press conference. This leak infuriated the detectives in the case, as they knew the killer would be following the media coverage, which gave him opportunity to destroy crucial forensic evidence. Ramirez, who had indeed been watching the press, dropped his size 11.5 Avia sneakers over the side of the Golden Gate Bridge that night. He remained in the area for a few more days before heading back to the Los Angeles area.
Fucker got lucky way too many times.
Oh,
he did.
Yeah.
And go.
And she should have known better. Anyway.
Stupid.
August 24th, 1985. Ramirez traveled 76 miles south of Los Angeles in a stolen orange Toyota to Mission Viejo. That night, he arrived at the home of James Romero Jr., who had just returned from a family vacation to Rosarito Beach in Mexico. Romero's son, 13-year-old James Romero III, happened to be awake and heard Ramirez's footsteps outside the house. Thinking there was a prowler, James went to wake his parents, and Ramirez fled the scene. James raced outside and noted the color, make, and style of the car, as well as a partial license plate number. Romero contacted the police with this information, believing James had chased away a thief.
See, and that kid, because, they had offered a $10,000 reward upon the capture of Ramirez.
Dude, he should have got that.
He did.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. After all was said and done, he was the closest one to giving them
information.
Good information.
Good.
And so the kid got the $10,000 reward for that. But, I mean, this kid ran out there.
Smart kid.
Ran outside, took down the model of the car and most of the license plate number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after this encounter, Ramirez broke into the house of Bill Carnes, age 30, and his fiancée, Inez Erickson, age 29, through a back door. Ramirez entered the sleeping couple's bedroom and awakened Carnes when he cocked his .25 caliber handgun. He shot Carnes 3 times in the head before turning his attention to Erickson. Ramirez told the terrified woman that he was the Night Stalker and forced her to swear she loved Satan as he beat her with his fists and bound her with neckties from the closet. After stealing what he could find, Ramirez dragged Erickson to another room before raping her. He then demanded cash and more jewelry and made her swear on Satan there was no more before leaving the home. Ramirez told Erickson, "Tell them the Night Stalker was here." Erickson untied herself and went to a neighbor's house to get help for her severely injured fiancé. Surgeons removed 2 of the bullets from his head and he survived his injuries. Erickson gave a detailed description of the assailant to investigators, and police obtained a cast of Ramirez's footprint from the Ramirez house. The stolen car was found abandoned on August 28th in Wilshire Center, Los Angeles, and police obtained a single fingerprint from the rearview mirror despite Ramirez's careful efforts to wipe the car clean of his prints. The print was positively identified as belonging to Ramirez, who was described as a 25-year-old drifter from Texas with a long rap sheet that included many arrests for traffic and illegal drug violations. Law enforcement officials decided to release a mugshot of Ramirez from a December 12, 1984 arrest for auto theft to the media, and the Night Stalker finally had a face. As the police press conference, it was announced, "We know who you are now, and soon everyone else will. There will be no place you can hide."
So here's what I think.
Okay.
Because I know that's important.
It is. It totally is. That's why we do this.
I think when you look at everything he's done, especially in the last 5 or 6 attacks, I think this night in Mission Viejo, I think the last 5 or 6 attacks he wanted to be caught.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mission Viejo became the thing where he finally was doing enough stupid stuff where he knew he was going to be caught some way.
That he was just getting tired.
That or something. I don't know what it was. But I mean, here you are, you're 80 miles away from the place you know. You're in Mission Viejo. Mission Viejo is not Los Angeles. Mission Viejo is an extremely wealthy, upscale neighborhood. People are going to notice somebody who's not supposed to be there. He tries to get into one house, almost gets caught, leaves. Does he leave and go back? Anybody else wouldn't want to wouldn't want to get caught. You would leave and go back to the Cecil or wherever you're staying at that point. Mm-hmm. He doesn't. He goes to another house in that same neighborhood, knowing full well he's already been spotted by somebody. Knowing that full well somebody probably called the police and they're probably out looking for him right now. Mm-hmm. I think he wanted to get caught. And I think this was the one where he finally got to the point where he'd done enough stupid things that he knew he was going to get caught.
Yeah.
And it was just a matter, as a chain event thing from that point forward. We know who it is. This is who it is. Now we're going to let everybody else know who it is.
Yeah. And like that process, when the cops came out and said, we know who you are and all this, the detectives in LA pissed them off. Oh, yeah. Pissed them off, because they were holding that so they could find him. They thought that once this got released, he'd run, they'd never see him again, But, it actually worked out to the advantage of law enforcement by them doing this. So, Mike, you want to take us there?
Yeah, of course, we mentioned before the kids. Unfortunately, Ramirez didn't spare children. Earlier on in his killing spree, there were a series of young children being taken from their beds, assaulted, and then abandoned. One of the 6-year-old survivors would be crucial in identifying Ramirez later on. In some cases, he would sexually assault a child he came across in the house during a burglary. Finally, on August 30th, Ramirez takes a bus to Tucson, Arizona, goes to visit his brother, unaware that he'd become the lead story in virtually every major newspaper and television news program across California. After failing to meet with his brother, he returns to Los Angeles early in the morning of August 31st. He ends up walking past police officers who were literally there staking, had a stakeout at the bus terminal in hopes of catching the killer. They were there staking out the bus terminal with the thought that he was going to be getting on a bus to leave California. The timing was just perfect enough that he had left California before all the shit hit the fan in the news. So he had no idea. He wasn't there to see all the stuff coming out about who he was. They knew who he was. This is who they're looking for. Here's a picture of him. Everything. He was in Tucson, didn't find his brother, got back on a bus. So while they were there staking out the Greyhound bus station, he gets off a bus coming back into California. So they start basically trying to chase him there. So he attempts to flee. He tries to get on another bus, makes it to a convenience store in East Los Angeles. Group of elderly Mexican women start identifying him as El Matador, the killer. He saw his face on the front page of the newspaper rack, and that's the first time he realized, oh shit, they really know who I am.
Yep.
So he left the store in a panic. He runs across the Santa Ana freeway, which is not an easy thing to do at any time of day. He attempted to carjack a woman. She chased away by bystanders. They ended up chasing him. He hopped over several fences, attempted 2 more carjackings. He was eventually subdued by a group of residents. He basically ran into a very heavy Hispanic neighborhood.
Yeah, in East LA. Yeah.
And they said, fuck it, no. One of them struck him over the head with a metal bar in the pursuit. Group held Ramirez down, beat him relentlessly. Police arrived, and they actually had to rescue him and take him into custody so that the people wouldn't kill him.
Citizens arrest. Citizens arrest.
They should have just let the citizens have him.
Yeah, for real.
There would have been nothing left.
No, nothing.
Pulp.
Maybe.
Yeah. Greasy spot.
Oh, the dogs would have got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Crazy.
We've got 15 minutes.
All right. So, trial and conviction. Jury selection for the trial began on July 22nd of 1988. And at his first court appearance, Ramirez raised a hand with a pentagram drawn on it and yelled, "Hail Satan!" On August 3rd, 1988, the Los Angeles Times reported that some jail employees overheard Ramirez planning to shoot the prosecutor with a gun, which Ramirez intended to have smuggled into the courtroom. Consequently, a metal detector was installed outside and intensive searches were conducted on people entering. On August 14th, the trial was interrupted because one of the jurors, Phyllis Singletary, did not arrive at the courtroom. Later that day, she was found shot to death in her apartment. The jury was terrified, wondering if Ramirez had somehow directed this event from inside his prison cell and whether or not he could reach other jurors. However, it was ultimately determined that Ramirez was not responsible for Singletary's death, as she was shot and killed by her boyfriend, who later committed suicide with the same weapon in a hotel. The alternate juror who replaced Singletary was too frightened to return to her home. On September 20th of 1989, Ramirez was convicted of all charges, 13 counts of murder, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. During the penalty phase of the trial on November 7th, 1989, he was sentenced to die in California's gas chamber. He stated to reporters after the death sentence, "Big deal. Death always went with the territory. See you in Disneyland." By the time of the trial, Ramirez had fans who were writing him letters and paying him visits. Beginning in 1985, Doreen Loy wrote him nearly 75 letters during his incarceration. In 1988, Ramirez proposed to her. And on October 3rd, 1996, they were married in California's San Quentin State Prison. So romantic. For many years before Ramirez's death, Loy stated that she would commit suicide when Ramirez was executed. However, Loy eventually left Ramirez in 2009 after DNA confirmed he had raped and murdered 9-year-old May Leung. Ramirez died of complications secondary to B-cell lymphoma at Marin Garden. Sorry, my eyes are blurry. Marin General Hospital in Green Bay, California on June 7, 2013. He had also been affected by chronic substance abuse and chronic hepatitis C viral infection. At 53 years old, he had been on death row for almost 24 years. By some estimates, he would have been in his early 70s before his execution was carried out, due to California's lengthy appeals process. By the time of his death in 2013, Ramirez was engaged to Christine Lee, a 23-year-old writer. 23! And he was 53.
Well, I mean,
yes.
You know, that's like during the trials. You know, women were sending
fawning over him.
Yeah. Sending him nude pictures of them and their 1980s glamour shots.
And
not just that, there were some of them that would show up in the courtroom and sit there and wave at him in the courtroom. He would dress up for him in the courtroom.
And it was funny. One of the interviews they did with one of the fans, they were like, basically they're like, so you are chasing after this guy who murdered and raped people, and she goes, yeah,
he's a really nice guy though. I've met him
really
before.
Nice.
I'm like, what?
He's a nice person.
If you had met him before, you wouldn't be talking to us now. Yeah.
I'm with Sir Manny on this. 24 years on death row. What the fuck? Just take him out back and shoot his ass.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
take him back and drop him in East LA.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Seriously, let the public have him.
Yeah.
I was born in East LA.
Yeah.
I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous the amount of time these people stay on death row.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand there have been several that have been put on, but more so years back. Mm-hmm. But there are people that have been put on death row on false pretenses. They were innocent. Mm-hmm. And I understand there needs to be like that appeals time. The appeals process. However, when there is cut and dry,
there's no way in hell you should go to prison
exactly.
as a 25-year-old and
there
be
is
70 when they put you down.
Yeah, there is absolutely no reason that anybody should spend that amount of time when there's no doubt.
And why should they be able to appeal 4, 5, 6, 7 times?
Exactly.
Agreed.
I mean,
you get one appeal. That's it. Sorry about your luck.
We have a case going on currently in the great city of Knoxville that has been going on since 2007, I believe. And it's a terrible, terrible situation. It was a horrible, horrible case.
Is that the Shannon Christian?
Yeah. Yes, the Christian Newsom.
Yeah.
And and they're still appealing.
It's crazy.
And there's absolutely no doubt that they were involved in this.
Oh, I mean,
why put their families through this?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Because you don't want to claim your responsibility?
Yeah.
You don't want to own up to what you did?
Exactly.
These poor kids lost their lives. They don't get to live their lives out anymore. You think you do? Sorry. No.
But anyway, yeah.
Public executions. That's what we need.
You really want to get pissed off? Listen to this. So if L.A., this is from a report back in 2011, if Los Angeles wanted to take him back to court, it would have cost $1.8 million in L.A. to take Richard Ramirez back to court, as opposed to what they were spending on him yearly, which costs around, death row inmates cost around $137 million a year for all the death row inmates in California.
Holy shit.
What?
Yearly. To keep all the death row inmates incarcerated in California, every year California pays in excess of $130 million.
Well, because they have to pay. They're the ones paying for these attorneys, these
public defenders.
public defenders.
And if the city of LA wanted to take him to court, it would have cost the city of LA $1.8 million.
Decisions.
That's their part. That's not even paying for his defender. That's just
Right.
LA's part. That's the city of LA versus Richard Ramirez.
Well, see, and we saw this like when we were watching all these videos. A lot of the stuff, you can find on YouTube is some of the best stuff, because it's the old news files and all that. And somehow went down the rabbit hole, and there's this YouTube page called 30 to Life. It's this guy that's I guess was in prison, 30 years to life. And I don't know if he got out and he's doing this web series from home, or if they've hooked him up in prison and he's doing this web series from prison. Who knows? But he was talking about how he was going to get moved from San Quentin to this other prison, and he was waiting for one of his buddies to get there. So he was asking, how do I get, not go, And so they're like, you got to get thrown in the hole. And he's like, okay. So he grabs a bunch of shit and puts it over in the door of his room, of his cell, puts baby oil on it, and lights it on fire. So they go put him in the hole. Well, the hole's full. So they take him over to death row, and they put him in death row. Yeah, that was the whole overflow was on death row. So take him over there, and he walks in. He's like talking to the officers. He's like, "What?" And it's like, this is a whole new place. And he's like, yeah. It's like, they had TVs. He said he looked in one cell. One cell had a computer in it. I mean, these guys on death row, they have anything they want.
Oh yeah, there was actually in part of that same report, the $137 million a year was just to house and take care of the folks on death row. If they got rid of the death penalty in California and just put them life in prison, it drops to $11.5 million a year.
Jeez.
Because you have to supply them with so many things, plus you have to have so many lawyers on call to take care of their legal needs, and they have to have access. They have to have access to legal files and legal library. I mean, life in prison. It's only that's $11.5 million a year, as opposed to the $137
I mean, is it
million
completely unheard of to, I don't know, say, have the suspect find their own attorney willing to work for them instead of offering one up for free? And if they can't afford one, then oh well.
Yeah, that's
sorry.
That's just not the way the system works.
It's part of the Miranda laws, and it says you can get whoever you want, but if you can't afford one will be provided for you at no charge. So you got Richard Ramirez. You think he's going to spend a dime for a lawyer?
Of course not.
You're going to give me a lawyer for free. You're going to give me two of them, and that's what they went. They went out and got the Garcia brothers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like in television.
Which even, oh my
lawyers.
gosh, even at the end of that, one of the Garcia brothers was like, yeah, he's evil.
Yeah.
He was horrible.
He's guilty. He's evil.
Guilty. He's evil. And it's like,
but it made us a lot of money.
yeah, it totally made them a lot of money. I mean, oh my gosh.
That's why lawyers have no soul.
Yeah. All right, guys.
I agree with Sarmenti. Rapists and pedophiles don't go to prison. Just castrate them the hard way.
Through the nostril?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go the long way.
Yeah.
Make them feel every single bit of it.
Ouch.
All right, guys. We're less than 5 minutes. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight.
Yes. Thanks for hanging. Thanks for hanging in, even though we had a lot of.
We get started a little earlier next time.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Nothing's wanting to work for me. Oh, yeah. Yes, we can, Mike. That's a great idea.
You jackass.
Thank you, everyone, for hanging in with us. We're sorry for all the technical difficulties.
Oh, and before we go, just remember this was part 1. We have 3 more episodes coming out just like this. Well, not just like this, but same topic, serial killers. And on the next ones, if you guys want to chime in, call us. Get in on the conversation with us. Because by looking at the chat room, some of you guys had a lot to say. So
give us a call, Sarmenti.
Yes. And
yes.
But check out the Teespring store. Check out my ad that I just made that's on our Facebook page.
He's so proud of that. He's so proud.
And I brought that up because I saw, that Betsy Boo's still here in the chat room. And she actually commented on one of our podcasts the other day that her order has shipped. And, and Mike, she said to let you know that she got yogurt pants.
Yay! I need pics of the yogurt pants.
Yep. Yeah, so send us, when you guys order this shit, send us pictures of you guys wearing it, and we'll throw it up on our Facebook page.
Yogurt pants.
The yogurt pants. But, all right, guys.
Thank you all so very much. We love y'all.
Yeah, less than 2 minutes. So be sure and join us next week. What's next week look like, Andrea? Friday or Saturday? I know, Mike, you said you got to work Friday, right? You're every Friday throughout February.
I got rehearsal next Friday. I don't know. We'll be done early.
Okay.
I don't know. We'll let everybody know.
Yeah. Just watch the Facebook page.
Yep.
I'll let you guys know.
Yogurt pants.
Yeah. Yogurt pants.
I like the type of yogurt that makes you poop.
Howard! Grab my yogurt pants!
Oh my gosh.
On that note, thanks for listening, guys. For Pear Talk, I'm Steven.
I'm Steve.
I'm
Mike.
Andrea.
Oh,
I'm Amy.
we're going this way. I'm Mike.
And as always, stay spooky, my friends.
And that's all, folks.
You've been listening to Paratalk with the East Tennessee Ghost Seekers. If you have a question or comment about the show you just heard, or you have an experience to share, or you need to contact us concerning an investigation, feel free to email us at etgsparatalk@gmail.com or call 865-264-0448. That's 865-264-0448. We invite you to find and like the East Tennessee Ghost Seekers on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and visit us online at easttnghostseekers.org. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on Paratalk.